The overall dynamic feel of this vehicle is smooth and balanced. In terms of power, the overall feeling is that of a quite satisfactory plug-in hybrid vehicle. We have also talked before that plug-in hybrid activities are divided into two stages. One stage is when the power battery has sufficient power. At this time, the power motor is the main force driving the vehicle. In normal mode, the motor drives the vehicle, and the engine only occasionally comes out to help or assist the motor during rapid acceleration. The difference between this vehicle and other plug-in hybrid ones is that at low speeds, you cannot tell whether it is the sound of electricity or the motor, which is very loud, louder than other EV and plug-in hybrid models. I don't know if Mazda deliberately made such a noise or if it wasn't covered up, but it made me very uncomfortable. When the power battery is sufficient, the power of the entire vehicle feels better. Whether it is initial acceleration or secondary acceleration, it can provide a good acceleration experience. Sometimes you can even have a wild driving, but no matter how crazy it is, it will only be 20 miles at most. Especially on the highway, those 20 miles go by in a blink of an eye. After running for 20 miles, the power battery began to discharge, and the entire vehicle entered the regular hybrid mode. In this mode, you can feel that the power experience of the entire vehicle is very average. The main forcing source of the vehicle is this 2.5-liter 4-cylinder self-priming engine. At this stage, the motor will drive the vehicle alone only under extremely constant speed or extremely low speed creep conditions. As long as you put a little pressure on the accelerator with your foot, the engine will start regularly. You can hear the roar from this engine when accelerating hard. Even though the engine has shouted crazily, the vehicle's acceleration is still unhurried and steady, not as radical as it screams. At this stage, the power of high-speed driving is average. When driving at a high speed and at a constant speed, you must prepare for the second acceleration in advance. Generally speaking, when the power battery has sufficient power, the speed acceleration of this vehicle is relatively good. When the power battery starts to lose power, the speed acceleration performance is very average. I can only say that it is smoother. In terms of power, I personally feel that it is not as powerful as the 3.3-liter turbo I tried last time. This time, it's only seated 3 people at most, and is not full loaded. I guess if it's full loaded, the power difference might be even greater. This vehicle has the help of power motor, and the overall driving smoothness is better than that of the 3.3 turbo. The frustration of the transmission in this hybrid model is better covered up. I think this is due to the motor. One thing that is more obvious is that when you are driving at a medium speed and at a constant speed locally, if you suddenly release the accelerator, you will feel the unwilling frustration from the transmission, which can be felt more obviously. In the process of driving at high speed and constant speed, because it has a power recovery device, the sliding distance is relatively shorter than that of a gasoline model. The whole process of sliding does not feel as smooth as the 3.3 turbo. As for the suspension, if you pay more attention, also feel it is consistent with that of the 3.3 turbo. The official did not indicate any special adjustments were made on this plug-in hybrid models, but the problem is that with the same adjustment and heavier body, the curb weight of this vehicle is more than 5,200 pounds. I believe this number cannot be considered light at any level. The 3.3T version last time was truly heavy. This vehicle is 300 pounds heavier than 3.3 turbo models. At low speeds, the vehicle's feedback to the road surface appears very clear. Although it is not an air suspension, you can feel that the suspension is working very hard, but it is still no match for having a very heavy body. When driving over a smooth, undulating road at high speed, the body does not feel too flickering. I guess it's entirely because the body is too heavy to rock at all. There is also a more comfortable shaking feeling on the 3.3 turbo, but on this car, it feels like a big guy crawling directly onto the ground. When the 3.3 turbo is running at high speed, even though the speed is already relatively fast, subjectively it does not feel like it is driving very fast. But this car is heavy, and its power performance is really mediocre when the power battery is depleted. You can clearly feel the speed at high speeds. The steering force of the steering wheel is relatively light at low speeds and relatively stable at high speeds. However, at low speeds, the steering force of the steering wheel cannot be considered particularly light. The brakes are generally okay. The brake pedal is relatively tight, and the brakes will respond immediately when foot is slightly on the brake pedal. There is not much difference in the overall braking of the 3.3 turbo model, but the curb weight has increased so much. You can intuitively feel that when running at high speed and applying the brakes deeply, the brakes work deeper than the 3.3T model. The braking trip of the model is deeper, about halfway of the trip. Wind noise and tire noise are nothing to complain about. There are still those two problems. One is electric current of low speedy, and the other is the sound of the rapidly accelerating engine, which does not seem so high-end. Friends often ask me how to choose between a hybrid and a plug-in hybrid. I still have the same view. If you choose a plug-in hybrid, you have to check out the pure electric driving range of your target vehicle. If it is enough for your daily drive, you can charge it when you get home at night, and charging is more convenient, resurrected when fully charged. I think you can choose a plug-in hybrid. Normally, driving is mainly driven by the motor, which consumes battery energy. If you get long-distance travel, you are not afraid, can also refuel, and there is an engine for protection. Then if the pure electric range of your target vehicle is not enough for your daily transportation, for example, its range is 26 miles and you need 50 miles for everyday driving, the 26 miles are not enough for you. I think if this is the case, you should choose hybrid one. The plug-in hybrids are more expensive after all, and the body is also heavy. Once the body is heavy, the service life of many consumable parts will also be affected. In addition, a plug-in hybrid model generally has a slightly smaller fuel tank than a gasoline vehicle or hybrid model in the same car series. So if we talk purely from the perspective of CX-90, I personally recommend version 3.3 turbo. I have not experienced the low-power version, which I had not idea about. But at least if the 3.3 high-power version is compared with this 2.5 plug-in hybrid version, I personally feel that in terms of driving experience, the 3.3 high-power version was the designer's original design plan for the CX-90. Of course, unless you want to save fuel, that's another story. But then again, if your purpose is simply to save fuel, then why would you buy a CX-90?